Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Mel and I'm a knitter and crafter living on the Orkney Islands off the north coast of Scotland. And if you're new here, I live here in like a small holding, what you would call a small homestead if you live in America. And we have chickens and ducks and veggie gardens and things like that. So sometimes I do some vlogs involving that sort of thing as well. Today is one of my usual knitting podcasts, which usually has a bit of other crafting bits thrown in when I've done them too, but today it is just knitting. And I'm not sure which episode we're up to, but I think it's about number 50 possibly. So we should probably just get straight into it. So yes, if you're new here then welcome, and if you are a returning viewer then you're obviously very welcome back, and I will place all the links for where you can find me and anything I talk about in the description box, on the YouTube description box below. So finished objects for this episode. I have one finished object that was nearly finished on the last episode. It hasn't been blocked yet, and I will steam, well, I'll use a damp cloth and a steam iron to block it rather than completely soaking it. And it is my Intrusion shawl, and it is huge. This thing is huge. If we go from one end, so this is the end which has gone all curly whirly, and we go through one arm and keep going, and we're nearly at the centre, or about the centre now, and I go a little bit further and we keep going and we keep going, and there's the other little curly end there. It is very, very large. The funny thing with shawls is that they're always longer than the cable that you're working on usually, and you're never really sure how big it is until you actually cast it off, and then it's like, surprise, I'm huge, I'll be dangling on the floor. But no, I do like a long shawl, and this is long. When it is wrapped around, the ends come down past my waist, which is actually really good because it means that you don't have to worry about it kind of falling off. But it is quite big, and it is squishy, and it is lovely, and it has come out very, very well. But it is a little warm in here to be wearing a woolly shawl, and it is a kind of a woolen spun shawl because it is made with hand spun yarn that was spun from art bats. So rather than spinning from roving, which all the fibres tend to be in one direction, bats kind of do, but they tend to spin up a little more haphazardly than roving does. So yes, so let's talk about the pattern first. This is a shawl that has been in my queue for several years now, and the yarn has been spun up ready to use for this shawl for nearly as long as well. The pattern is the Intrusion shawl, words today, and the design is by designed by Smine. I think is it designed by Smine? Yes, designed by Smine. And we have quite a number of shawl designs, and it has these, it's an asymmetrical crescent shawl, so the starting garter tab cast on, by the time you finish knitting it, isn't completely in the centre because you are doing a lot of these short row wedges, and this particular one here is quite long, so the garter tab, which is here, ends up offset, which is fine. I'm really, really happy with it. The only thing I changed, well, a couple of things that I changed. The design is supposed to have picot edge borders on the bottom. It has a double border, one of each colour. I ended up just doing a stretchy bind off. Mostly, well, two reasons. I ran out of yarn, basically. I was doing the first border and I did them the opposite to what the design says. So I did the back border first, and I realised I wasn't going to have enough yarn. I had half as much as I needed for the bind off. It uses quite a lot of yarn at picot edge. So I ripped it out and did a stretchy bind off instead, and therefore I did the same with the other border too. This is the only reason I want to steam block this, is for the borders, to just stretch them out nicely, because they have eyelets, and I want to stretch them out so they sit nice. At the moment they're kind of curling under on themselves. So I have that to do. And the only other thing that I changed was this bottom garter section in the light blue here, which runs the full width. Should be much larger than that, but again I was running out of yarn. I think the reason that mine is so wide and also running out of yarn is because I went up a needle size. In fact, I think I went up 2 needle sizes for this. The pattern is supposed to be knit on a 3.5 needle, and I did start and I did get a certain amount knit with it. I got past this first dark blue short row wedge, and I think I'd started the second section in the light blue, and I didn't like the texture of the shawl. It was quite, not stiff, but it was a little firmer than I would have liked, and because this is more of a woolly yarn, it felt like it was going to be quite scratchy on my neck. I can kind of get away with more rustic yarns if they've got more drape and they're kind of softer and squishier. And when I look back at the previous shawls that I've knit before with fingering weight yarn, I've always knit them on a 4mm needle. So that's what I did. I ripped out and I went up to 4mm. And in doing so, obviously my gauge has changed and the shawl is much wider. But I also ran out of yarn quicker. But that's fine. It doesn't matter, because I don't like a particularly deep shawl anyway. The yarns were both hand spun by me, and they were using 3 bats that I bought from the last Edinburgh Yarn Festival several years ago. I had two bats in this colour, which is Snow Queen, and one in this one, which is Azurite from Spin City, and she does art bats and drop spindles and such like. Her drop spindles are really popular. So yes, so I had 300 grams. I have a little bit left of the dark colour, but that's fine, it'll get used for something else. Not sure what else to say about this shawl. It is a really nice shawl. I really love the way the wedges work into each other. It is called Intrusion, like the rock formations. Words today, I should know this, I did do some geology. So yes, it looks really, really nice. Really happy with it. Very simple, mostly garter stitch. There was some rows of eyelets and there are short rows, but the short rows don't use wrap and turns or German short rows. They literally just turn the work and keep going. So it is very, very simple. I would say this is a fairly simple, not beginner, but kind of a keen beginner shawl, or kind of knit your second shawl sort of thing, because it is still very simple stitches. Or if you just want something relaxing to work on, which is what I prefer to knit on an evening, nice relaxing stuff, and this definitely fit the bill. Once I started this, I couldn't stop working on it, and it knit up very, very quickly. So yeah, very happy with it. And I think that's my only finished object for this episode. Everything else is new cast-ons. I put out my autumn knitting plans video and I have cast on several of them already. Some of them have they have more work, more progress on them than others. The one with the most progress is the Wild Posy sweater by Melody Hoffman. I have knit one of these before, and this is going to be awful to try and show on camera because it is in black yarn, so I do apologise. I'm in a bit of a tangle. I had to pull back the last row that I knit last night. I pulled this back this morning because I had not read the instructions properly, and I had missed the instructions for the line that said knit 1 stitch first before working the pattern repeat. So my pattern repeat was off by 1 stitch, which I thought maybe I could get away with it being black yarn, but no, it bothered me, so I had to rip it out. So this is going to be awful to try and show, but I will try and stretch the stitches out and turn it to the light. It is a textured yoke, which looks like nothing on camera. You can kind of vaguely see there are lumpy bits. You can see it better in some lights than in others. I can see it when looking at it with the light shining on it, but on camera it's just not going to show. Instead I will try and show the pattern. One moment. Okay, so this pattern has two versions. It has the Lunar version and the Flora version. Yes, Flora version. This is the picture for the Flora version. And I'm showing this one because the picture for the Lunar version, which is the one I'm knitting, is even worse to show than my sweater. I'm not sure if this will focus. Probably not, because my face is there. But again, it doesn't show because she has used even more rustic yarn than I have used. But the posy, the wild posy Flora version, the Lunar version is the same yoke, all this section is the same, but the Flora version has little kind of lacy flowers, and in the centre it has this long stitch kind of section just in the middle there. The Lunar version has this long stitch at the top and the bottom instead of the flower lace pattern. But you can see it has like a long stitch, then two long stitches, then one long stitch. I don't know how to describe it, like a little cross kind of a shape, like on its side. Originally I was going to knit this black yarn in the Flora version, and I did start, but the lace flowers just weren't showing up. They weren't sitting straight, and it just didn't look like anything. So I pulled it back. I have knit a version of the Lunar before, which is why I was going to do the Flora this time, but I just ended up doing a second version of the Lunar. That's fine, it doesn't matter. It's in black, you can't even see it very well. The yarn, if I have a label for it, is Drops Air in, I'm not sure which colourway. Drops Air in colourway number 06. This is the yarn. Hello camera. There we go, Drops Air, and it is an alpaca blend. It is 65% alpaca, 28% polyamide, 7% wool. It is very soft, it is very fluffy, it pills like crazy. My other one really pills like crazy, but it is very warm and it is very soft and very lightweight. I have only bought 300 grams to knit this entire sweater. My previous one used 350 grams, but I'm going to knit a shorter one this time, and it is an iron weight. So 300 grams for an iron weight sweater for a girl my size is pretty good. I really like it for around the house. Like I said, it looks untidy after a while because of the amount of pills and pilliness of it, but it is a really nice cozy yarn to make sweaters for at home. So I'm coming along. I have the row that I ripped out plus one more row, and then the yoke is done. Well, the patterning on the yoke is done, and then I think there's some short rows, and then we're separating for the sleeves, and then it's just stocking it all the way. I will be doing full length sleeves and possibly a slightly cropped version so that I can wear it with dresses like the one that I'm wearing now. This one, I have made a few hinterlands recently, and I mentioned that I made another one in a black lightweight corduroy with flowers, and this is the first one I made. I'm really happy with it. I think it's my favourite. I like the gingham one as well though. It might be a joint favourite. It is currently jingly jangling this at the moment because when I ripped out the row, there are several stitches where I have dropped a loop on the back. So when I knit the next row, I have to pick up all these loops on my way around. So apologies if it is jingling. All the stitch markers on here are either made by me or they've come as freebies with other orders for things, and the progress keepers I got fairly recently, and I will try and remember to put the Etsy shop that I got them from down below, but they are little bird houses, little pink bird houses with the flowers on. I thought they were rather cute. So that is my current main evening knitting, in the dark, well, with the lamp on. So that's probably why I made the mistake. No, I didn't read the instructions right, let's be honest. But sometimes it's a little tricky to work by lamplight with black yarn. Fortunately, it's quite chunky, so it's not quite too bad. Not quite too bad. Goodness me, I don't know. I can't seem to speak today. So what else have I been working on? Well, I cast on another shawl. This shawl, again, is hand spun. There seems to be a lot of hand spun shawls anyway. I haven't made much progress. I've only made this much progress, which the cable is going to twist and turn around. I will hold it upside down. I've only made this much progress, but it is a start, and it's looking very, very nice. I'm really happy with it. It is using, well, what should have been one yarn and ended up being 2 yarns for this. The pattern, I have an itchy alpaca eye now. The pattern is the Dotted Rays shawl by Stephen West. I have made one of these before for Mum in neon colours. This time it is in autumn colours for myself, and I'm using hand spun, like I said. This fibre came from Created by LCB, and I ordered 2 braids that I plied together. One of them is pumpkin ale and the other one is spiced pumpkin. I think the spiced pumpkin is a multicoloured browns and oranges, and the pumpkin ale is a semi-solid orange. And if you watch my autumn knitting plans, you would know I made a spinning boo-boo with this, and I spun my semi-solid thinner, then my variegated ply. So when I spun them together, plied them together, I only had I had quite a lot left over, so I plied it back on itself. So what I'm doing is, on the shawl, it has, let me get the front, it has rows where you make eyelets. So on those rows, when I knit all the way there and all the way back, I'm using the orange, and then I'm knitting the variegated one for the segments, because this has short row segments. Completely different to the Intrusion shawl, but similar, same sort of technique basically. And when I get to the end of the shawl, it has an I-cord bind off, and I will use the orange for that too. So it'll create a little bit of interest. But I haven't made much progress, mostly because I've been working on the sweater. It's not the only cast on though. I have 2 more. Actually, I have a third, but I haven't made much progress on that, so I'll briefly touch on that. It's in the same bag as the Flora sweater. I cast on this sweater before, and I ripped it out and started it again. It is the Witching Hour Swan Shawl by Hannah Mann that I am knitting as a sweater. This is in DK weight. I'm using fingering weight and a fingering weight gauge to knit all this section as the top yoke of a sweater, and then I will separate for sleeves if I think it's long enough, and if not, I will knit some plain and then separate the sleeves. So I started knitting it as a sweater a couple of years back. I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 years ago, and then I put it to one side, and then I had to think about it and thought I would get more use of it out of it as a cardigan. So I ummed and ahed on just carrying on knitting, because I had done about that much of the colour work, and then just kind of cutting up the middle and steeking it. But I decided to rip it out and knit it properly with a proper steek section. So I've knit the collar. I'm not going to be able to show this very well. I've knit the collar, I have knit the short rows at the top of the neck, which it doesn't have in the pattern, but I added as well. And I have started, there's a little join here. This is where my steek will be down the sweater. It is at the point where I need to start the colourwork chart, which is why I haven't gone any further, because I have other projects that I'm working on. I have other charts that I'm working on. So this chart work will come when the other charts are finished, basically. The yarn, or yarns, is some of my own old hand-dyed yarn. This one is in the colourway Spellbound, and it is a 100% non-superwash Blueface Leicester. And my contrast colour is a oatmeal Shetland undyed yarn, both of which are in fingering weight, although the BFL is quite a lightweight fingering weight, kind of along the lines of a Shetland Spindrift or Hulst Super Soft, that sort of weight. So I haven't got very far. Hopefully we'll have some more on that for next episode. Although if I end up doing Vlogtober, my next episode, regular podcast episode, will probably be at the end of October or like the first week in November. I'm not sure yet. I'm still debating what to do. So that leaves my other cast-ons. I have 2 more, and both of them are making quite good progress. I'll move the zip. I should have unzipped all my bags first. I forgot this one. So this pattern I've been meaning to knit for a couple of years, and I always have it on my autumn knits list and never seem to get around to it. It is a cable work sock, which is why I never get around to it. It only has one cable that runs up the side of the top of the sock, and it is the A Little Hocus Pocus socks by This Handmade Life, and this is a free pattern on Ravelry. And I've kind of gone with the same sort of colours as she has for the original sample. I am using Drops Fable for the main colour rather, and it is in, trying to remember what number it is. This might not be the right number, but it says 1110, but I think that's the right one. Drops Fable. But regardless, the colour work is, I've been talking about colour work. The colour name is called Rust. The green, I haven't even shown you the sock. I will show you the sock a little again in a moment. But I have used a dark green for the contrast, and it is Regia Eco Line Uni. There we go. And this uses recycled polyamide. It is a 75% wool, 25% polyamide, and it is in the colour 3004. And it is a very dark foresty green. So the sock is coming on, the first one is coming along quite nicely. The cables are going quite well. I don't usually like knitting cables. I just find it slows my knitting down to have to stop and do cable work, and it bothers me quite a lot. But they're coming on quite well. What I'm doing is because I have to do it in natural daylight, so when I'm sitting near the window. So on a morning I work through 1 repeat of the cable chart, which is working out quite well, and I'm flying along, as you can see. I've just gone past the heel. I knit the heel last night. I got up to the heel yesterday, and then I did the heel turn, and I could knit the heel flap on the evening by lamplight, and I finished off that cable repeat this morning. So I have 2 more pattern repeats, and then I'm up to the cuff. So yeah, considering I don't like cabling, I'm actually not minding doing this, so very happy with them. I'm using the cable without a needle method that Andrea Mari demonstrated on her YouTube channel. I'm a little bit struggling with it sometimes, mostly because it's a little bit fiddly because I'm working on 9-inch circulars. And I'm not using a cable needle, obviously, but sometimes it can be a bit awkward to manipulate such a small cable. but I really didn't want to work magic loop. I just don't enjoy knitting socks magic loop anymore. I will switch to magic loop if I'm working lace work, because the extra length of the needles are just better for manipulating for lace work. But the cables are working out okay. I will hopefully be finished these next episode as well, and I'll be working on more socks, more Halloweeny socks. So yeah, that is a little Hocus Pocus socks. And I have one more item that I'm working on, and it is another pair of socks, because box of socks this year. These are screaming Halloween socks. They're vanilla socks, and they are Halloween socks. They are gorgeous, and there is lots of purple in them. So these, I've just got to the point where I'm going to do the heel, which is why these are on a long cable, because I do switch to, well, technically it's not magic loop because I'm not actually knitting in the round, I'm just knitting back and forth with the heel flap, but I do switch to a longer needle and cable for doing the heel, and for the toes, and for the cuff actually. I did forget to mention I'm knitting these socks on a 2.25mm needle, and that's for the heels, toes, cuffs and the body of the sock. But this sock I'm knitting just the toes, heels and cuffs on 2.25. The body is being knit on a 2mm needle, and the reason for that is I'm using an indie dyed yarn for this, and indie dyed yarns tend to be finer, they're like a lighter fingering weight compared to commercial sock yarns. I'm looking for the label, here we go. So the main yarn is by Fibre, and the colourway, I'm at it again, the colourway name is Alpha Bars Knickers, and it is gorgeous. I used half of this skein already for a pair of Halloween socks 2 years ago, and I wanted to use the rest of it this year. And when I weighed it, I had used more than half for my previous pair. I had used 53 grams and I had 47 left. So what I'm doing is I'm using my contrast yarn, which is West Yorkshire Spinners in the colourway Amethyst. There we go, West Yorkshire Spinners in the colourway Amethyst, and I'm inserting an extra stripe of this in amongst this yarn when I'm working up the body of the sock. So I've knit the colour repeat up to the orange, and then before the lavender colour starts again, I've inserted a purple stripe of the West Yorkshire Spinners, and it looks fine. It looks like it belongs, which is great. The reason I'm using I already said why I'm using the 2mm needle, but because it's an indie dyed yarn, I'm also adding extra slip stitches in the most needed places. I don't know why my focus is all over the place today. So I've done slip stitches, I've partridge on the bottom of the foot where the ball of the foot is, and I've also added extra ones, if it will focus, just before the heel of the sock as well, because I'm quite hard on my socks, and this is a merino nylon. Commercial sock yarns are much hardier than merino, and merino just doesn't hold up very well. If I don't do the slip stitches on the ball of the foot, which is where it tends to go mostly, I will only get a couple of wears out of them before I have to repair them. If I do the slip stitches, I can get several wears out of them before they have to be repaired. So I don't like doing it. It's a pain in the bum. It slows down my knitting speed and it bothers me, but it's worth it for certain colourways, and it's definitely worth it for not having to repair the socks really soon. So that is all my knitting items. I did have some, I'm having issues with my hair. I did have some sneaky, not really sneaky, it's not sneaky, acquisitions. I bought more yarn. I'm thinking next year of doing another box of socks, this time for my husband, with not as many pairs, because he doesn't wear them all the time like me. Hopefully I can convince him, if he has more pairs, that he will. But I didn't just end up buying some yarn for him, I bought some for me too. So I did buy sock yarn. I bought some Opal sock yarn in the colourway Green Town, which I thought was quite Halloweenish. So potentially Halloween socks for this year, just just vanilla socks. I also bought, it's Opal 100 Wasser's Work. It's Opal Green Town. I also bought the West Yorkshire Spinners new Christmas colourway that came out a couple of weeks back, a few weeks back now, in the colourway Yuletide, and this is a sparkle base sock. It has gold sparkle and it has all this gorgeous red and gold and green in it. It actually works up with stripes of green and then stripes of, I would say speckly, but that's the wrong term. It's got kind of fake Fair Isle kind of patterning in between the green stripes, but it reminded me of Christmas trees. So I got some of that and a ball of yarn for John for next year. Again, West Yorkshire Spinners, this time in the colourway Starling, which has much more purple than I originally thought, but that's fine. I am going to do green contrast toes and heels for that, probably in the same dark green that I'm doing my Halloween socks, and it'll hopefully pick out the greens in the main yarn. And I also bought more blanket yarn. A few weeks ago, or maybe a few months ago now, I knit the Rainbow Ripple baby blanket as a lap blanket. No, I didn't. I crocheted it even. And it's been very useful and I really enjoyed making it. So I decided I'm going to make a second one. So I bought 2 cakes of Yarnsmith's Elvis in the colourway Turbo for another blanket. And it is shades of oranges and browns and beige. And it's going to look perfect in my living room. And it was on sale. It was half price, so it was £3 something a cake. These are 150 grams each. They are 100% acrylic and perfect for lap blankets that end up with cat hair all on them, so I can just throw them in the washing machine on a regular basis and not have to worry about it. So 2 of those made, well, last time I used Lion Brand Mandala, but this is almost identical. It's the same chenille texture, it's the same DK weight, it's the same amount on a cake. So 2 of these, I'm convinced it's the same yarn. But 2 of them will make a nice size lap blanket. And again, I will do the Rainbow Ripple baby blanket. So yes, that is my yarny acquisitions. This is actually Mel from about an hour or so later. I've been to the post box and there was goodies, so I thought I'd quickly show those too. Mostly I bought some extra progress keepers, some nice seasonal ones. So I bought a, let's see if this will focus, a little Halloween cake slice progress keeper. This one came from Cupcake Crochet Creations on Etsy. Just check if that's correct. Cupcake Crochet Crafts. I will link everything down below, but I just thought if my camera will focus that it was quite cute. So I'll be popping that on one of my Halloween projects. And I also bought 2 other sets from another Etsy company, from the Wool Cauldron. And I bought 2 sets. They're going to be jingly jangly because they're enamel ones. I have this one, which is these cute little witchy cats. One's got little bat wings on a skull, and one's got a little crystal ball, and one sitting on some books. I just thought they were rather cute, and that is the Wool Cauldron. And I also have another set from those, and I'm trying to line them up so that you can see them all, but as soon as I move one, I shunt the next one along. Yeah, I think that's the best I'm going to be able to do. Again, jingly jangly. And these are some little fly agaric mushrooms, and they're all different. So this one's got a little pearl, this one's a little twin mushroom, so is this one, a little dinky one, and this one I think has a, can't see it in them, like a little leaf, little grassy leafy bit at the bottom. There we go. And they are from Wool Cauldron. I also got some fabric. So I'm going to make myself some autumn project bags even. I did order a couple of other pieces of fabric which I actually end up leaving upstairs in the hobby room, but I will show them when I make some bags. But I did get this fabric which has little foxes and acorns and leaves and mushrooms on, and it has a navy background. I wasn't sure when I ordered it if it was navy or like a bluish grey, like a charcoaly grey. I couldn't quite tell from the photos, but either way I was happy. So it is a navy blue. I think it's a little darker than it is showing on camera. Well, that could be just my screen. Sometimes the colours look different on the screen to when I play them back. And this came from another Etsy company, and it's Custom Fabrics Store. And like I said, I'll link everything and the other fabrics you'll see when I've made project bags. So I will hand you back to past Mel for whatever I was about to speak about. As for life updates, well, we are just about finished doing the hobby room upstairs. If you were here on my last episode, I did say we were doing some renovation work up there. The floor is down properly again. The carpet, got new carpet. Carpet is it? Well, I say new carpet, it didn't have one to begin with. It's got carpet down now. And my wall of yarn is back up, thank goodness, because it was just in bin bags in the spare bedroom and it was driving me nuts. And slowly it's coming together. So yes, really, really pleased with it. It's time to move on to the next room, which is the sun lounge. I don't know what you would call that in America. I don't even know what you would call that in Englandshire. In Scotland, it's the sun lounge. It's not quite a conservatory. Maybe a lean-to? I'm not sure. But it's attached to the house. It has lots of windows, but it doesn't have a plastic roof like a conservatory has. And it's all enclosed. So it's not like an American porch either, enclosed porch. But it's not really an outside room, it's definitely an inside. It's hard to explain it. I'm not sure what a term would be for it. But it has been like a building site since we built it, because we built it. And it's just been exposed breeze blocks, concrete blocks, and just the stone concrete floor. And it's just been used for various things since it was built, but never finished for its final purpose. So it's been kind of used as a temporary utility room with the washing machine in there and a temporary sink set up and what have you. It has been used as my dye studio for a time, but in reality it's going to be a sunroom or a sun lounge, very similar purpose to something like a conservatory. So it will have seating and it will have plants in there and such like. But at the moment it is a building site. Well, kind of not really a building site, but it hasn't actually been finished. There's no finishing been done on it. So that is the next plan. So it all needs to be tongue and groove boarded, we've decided. So hopefully it won't look too much like a sauna. I will have to put plenty of white paint in there, not too much exposed wood, because otherwise it will just look like a sauna. So that's the next big renovation project. And yes, we have apples coming off the apple trees. Not as big a crop as last year, unfortunately. If you saw last year's Vlogtober, I couldn't keep up with the amount of apples that were coming off the trees. We probably have half as much, and half of those blew off during a storm a few weeks ago, which is great because I've kind of got like the first flush of apples to process and then a second flush once they're actually coming off the tree kind of naturally. So that's great. I was really struggling a bit last year to keep up with them. I did end up storing a few, but I didn't store them very well, so I ended up having to use them up quite quickly. Other than that, not a lot, to be perfectly honest. just the same old. I might start making some more vlogs in the new year with more homesteading type goings on around here. Next year we really want to focus on our vegetable growing. It's kind of fell a little, not by the wayside, but we definitely don't grow as much as we used to. Other things have come along that we've needed to work on or have taken priority or precedence, like when I was dyeing yarn and such like. So next year, back to growing more vegetables, raising more of our, well, let's say raising our own, we don't raise our own meat anymore, but growing our own vegetables and such like, and trying to improve our growing situation, enclose the vegetable boxes more so they have more protection and that sort of thing. So, but that's full for next year. We have the holiday season to get through first. So I think I'm going to leave that here for today. I am in need of a cup of tea. Once this is edited down, it shouldn't be more than about 40 minutes, but you end up talking for considerably longer than that when you make mistakes and such like. So I'm going to leave it there for this episode. If I've forgotten anything, I apologise. And if I do Vlogtober this year, then I will see you in Vlogtober. And if I don't, then I will be back with another episode at some point during October. But I'm hoping to do Vlogtober. If not every day, then as much as possible. So I shall see you through the autumn holiday period. And yeah, thank you for watching. Okay, thank you for watching. Bye bye.